there, and welcome to this installment of Parenting Plus. My name is Isabel Garcia. I'm the host of this series, and I am excited to do a deep dive into a special topic for this installment. In this series, also, we do a deep dive into topics impacting kids, families, moms, dads, and anyone of any makeup of all shapes and sizes. I'm joined now by two special guests. We have Debra Ross, who's the publisher with KidsOutandAbout.com, regular here for us now on Parenting Plus. Thanks for joining us again, Deb.
You bet.
And we also have Shanil Virani, who is with the Astronomical Society of the Pacific, and just coolest title, Shanil, Cosmic Engagement Specialist. And so we're talking about, and the topic is there on the screen, connecting with the winter sky. And, you know, January kind of just really in the mid of winter right now, definitely a timely topic to discuss indeed. But Shanil, just wanted to start off with such a cool title too. Can you just give an overview of what exactly it is that you do?
Yeah, I'd love to. And thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I think that's such a wonderful topic, especially for families with young kids. I work at the Astronomical Society of the Pacific as an astronomer and educator. My background was in professional astronomy, studying the supermassive black holes that lurk at the centers of all galaxies, including our own. And during my grad student days, it's when I saw the light, pun intended, and realized that teaching and public engagement and just talking to the community about science, who gets to do it and why it matters, is what I do now. And I'm very fortunate that I get to work with the oldest astronomical organization in the United States, and that's our mission.
Wow, that's just so fascinating. And, you know, something that impacts all of us, whether or not we realize it, right? And, you know, Deb and I have had, you know, some conversations, you know, over the weeks that we've been doing this, just in terms of being able to establish, you know, all the different ways to connect with our kids. So I have two kids, 7 and 5, and, you know, just in the early stages of motherhood too, just all the wonderment, you know, and it's really interesting, just navigating, you know, all of those kind of firsts, and relearning everything, you know, as a first-time parent. And now, you know, that they're kind of in school age range, it's been really interesting just connecting some of the lessons like that they're learning in the classroom. But in terms of, you know, being able to make this, kind of connecting theme. Deb, I'll go to you too. You know, how can families really make this a thing for them?
Right. Well, you know, my constant refrain is that parents and grandparents and everybody in the extended community is a tour guide for kids to the universe. And so our job is to point at things, talk about them, and connect where they know the child is to this new thing, kind of establish some kind of connection to that thing. And so, you know, some things are easy to connect with awe, and the sky is pretty easy. It's universal, for one thing. Everybody can see it, can't touch it, but everybody has an experience of the sky, and everybody's experience is different. So it's a wonderful way to have a kind of similar experience as your kids, but be able to talk about how you experience it and what you know about it, and then really listen and feel what your child's connection is and kind of nurture that as they go along. So it's a wonderful, and not to mention free thing to do with kids.
That's fantastic. I should also maybe preface this, but my daughter's name is actually Sky. So
Isn't that wonderful?
Very much so appropriate.
Beautiful.
Oh, thank you. And so, honestly, I mean, just, you know, even inspiration, but just the beauty and the wonder, you know, that really comes from looking at the, you know, night sky, the cosmos. I remember when I was in elementary school and now seeing my kids kind of start to get more towards like the science age with my daughter. She's in 2nd grade now. But we would have, it was almost like a joke at a certain point because you would go to it every year, but we would go to the planetarium. And I grew up in a district right outside of Philly. And so we would go to, you know, Franklin Institute, things like that. But in terms of, you know, what I think is so special is that, so for example, my kids, one of the ways that we connect with the winter sky is that my dad, their grandfather, lives in Cape Cod. And anytime he comes to visit, he'll always say, you know, oh, when you're looking at the moon or when you're looking up at the stars at night, just know I'm in Cape Cod. I'm in a different spot. And we'll look at the map and I'll say, but I am seeing the same thing. And the kids were just so bewildered by that. And there's so much out there now. And so Shanil, when it comes to public engagement and outreach, you know, how are families responding and what are some ways that families can get involved really in this topic?
This is such a wonderful topic, and I think Deb nailed it. There's only one thing I'd say. I think you can touch it. And I'll come back to how you can in a moment. But
Hmm.
the night sky, we often teach it as that kind of scientific enterprise, that endeavor of us trying to figure out where we are, how we got here, and where we're going. But when you take, zoom out a little and just take a larger picture of how we got to this conversation, you realize and recognize that this is what our species has been doing since we were on the scene. Our
Yeah.
species is some 250,000 years old, and it's
Yes.
every culture looked up at the night, right? Made stories, saw patterns. And, in the past, of course, it was very utilitarian. The reason why they did this was because they needed calendars. As our species moved from kind of like hunter-gatherer to agrarian societies, we needed to
Mhm.
know when to plant, right? When to harvest, when winter
Yes.
is coming, and to have the wood, the water, and the food to survive northern climates.
Mhm.
Kids and parents alike know that the winter solstice, the one that we just had in December for those in the northern hemisphere,
Yes.
is often referred to as the longest night of the year. And
Mhm.
really that saying comes from our ancestors. Again, they didn't
Yeah.
have that kind of scientific understanding of why it was, but this is a pattern that they recognized. The winter solstice, longest night of the year, the summer solstice, the shortest night of the year, and they kept this rhythm. And so I think the first thing with when parents go or families go outside
Sure.
and observe the sky together, as I think, and I get goosebumps saying this even now, it's that you're engaging in a 250,000-year-old story. You're doing things that our species has always done. And I think the most impressive thing to do is just to do it together. It's a communal, shared experience, right? Our species didn't live indoors. This is a relatively recent phenomenon. We didn't have Xboxes and tablets and
Yeah.
phones,
Right.
right? The night
Yes.
sky was the source of our inspiration. The night sky was the source of our stories, our art, our philosophy, theology, and science, right? It all starts there.
Mm.
And so I think grounding it in that wonderment is a great place to start because, as you know, with being a mother of 5 and a 7-year-old, and Deb knows, being the mother of 2 girls, kids when they're young are scientists, right? They're
Mhm.
scientists in that they're
Yes.
asking the questions of why. Why is the sky blue during the day? Why is the grass green? Why do the stars have different colors? Right? Those are the questions of science. And so, as long as we can continue to fan that flame, I think we win.
I think that's
That's
fantastic.
beautiful. I
Yeah.
love that. I'm going to snip that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the snippet of just being able to, and the framing of saying this isn't just an ongoing conversation. And even when you mentioned that, I was recalling and had just a jolt of a memory back from college, learning about, Aristotle, Plato, and like
Right,
all of just the
right.
astronomers and the fascination. And actually, my daughter for Christmas this year got a microscope and a telescope kit and like
Wonderful.
binocular. And it's just really fascinating, just the simple things, right? And as you
Mhm.
mentioned too, just, Deb, I think you said it's just free. You can go out and do it. And when it comes to, I guess, being able to plan out,
Mhm.
okay, let's make this time. We just had kind of the first full moon of 2026 already, in our region. But what are some ways to either incorporate it? And it doesn't have to be habitual, but just
Right.
some ways to make it special.
This is also such a wonderful question because it doesn't have to be some hour-long or night-long activity, right? This is something that even if you live in urban areas like Rochester, right, and you have a lot of
Mm,
lights from the city, your community that competes with our ability to see the night sky, that's fine. You don't necessarily have to drive 2 hours outside to find that dark sky location. Stepping in the backyard and seeing the moon, as you said, right? And noticing it goes through a suite of pattern is a very useful exercise. Just spending 5 minutes and asking, what do you see? What shapes, what patterns you can identify. And if you do that and you recognize, like, say, the brightest ones, then you notice that they're changing from night to night, from week to week. And that opens the door to why is that happening? Why is it that we see different patterns at different times of the year? The other thing about the winter sky that makes it really cool, pun intended, and fun is that, of course, with nighttime starting early, you don't have to wait late into the night.
yes,
Right.
With the
that's
summer,
true.
right? You can go outside after about 5 p.m. after that evening twilight. And so
Yes.
just seeing Orion, as you pointed out,
Mhm.
Orion is, that Greco-Roman warrior. But in fact, even that constellation predates the Greco-Roman period. For the ancient Egyptians, some 3,000 years before the ancient Greeks, so 5,000 years from us now,
Gosh.
Wow.
they
Yeah.
saw Osiris and Canis Major, the brightest star, Sirius, the dog star, right? The Greco-Romans call it Canis Major. To the ancient Egyptians, it was Isis, his wife. So you
Wow.
had,
Yes.
yeah, so you just have these wonderful stories. And so that's another great pivot, right? Because you're looking at stars, you're talking about just different constellations, but this is a pivot to talk about stories and talk about stories
Mhm.
through time and how even
Yes.
though we may give them different names, we saw similar things. And I love that idea, right? And so just spending 5 minutes, letting the child guide the curiosity. I will tell you that you mentioned about going to the Franklin Museum and the planetarium.
Yes.
And before joining the ASP, I was a planetarium director too. And what I
Oh.
noticed, this was just one of these epiphanies that occurred to me. We had about 10 undergraduates that also helped, run our shows on Saturday
Mhm.
for the public. And I even noticed this with, fellow faculty at the university I taught at. I think the three hardest words that educators, astronomers, and perhaps even parents have struggled to say is, I don't know. And I think those
Ah,
three words are the
Mm.
most important because it's also a
Yes.
way of signaling to your child that this inquiry, this curiosity, this inquisitiveness does not stop, right? And that's the
Yes.
beauty of science. It's the beauty of just engaging with the cosmos and the world around us, is that there's always something to figure out or to identify. And to come back to actually Deb's point about,
yeah.
maybe we can touch the sky,
Oh, yes.
right?
Yeah.
It's that you can. I just did. And
Wow.
you can do that
Oh
too, right?
my
Yeah.
gosh.
Ah,
Oh, that's so cool. I
Yeah.
mean, really just start. I think it was my 5-year-old son the other day said something to the effect of, I love you like stardust or something. And it was just such a simple little,
Yeah.
cute thing. But my husband and I looked at each other and we're like, wow, that was kind of profound. Honestly, when you
yeah.
think about it a little bit.
Can you
And
talk some more about that, Chanel? Like how we're all made of star
yes.
stuff? What does that even mean to a
What?
regular person?
When I was a young child, my hero was Carl Sagan. And he's famous for many things, of course, but one of that is we're all made of star stuff. And this is this idea, which we've only learned in the last 75 years. And I say that because, to science, that's like last minute, given the age of
Right.
our
Yeah.
species, right? It's like this is
Right.
brand new information. And what astronomers have figured out is that the calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the different heavier elements that we're made of, anything heavier than, say, hydrogen, helium, and lithium, we're all made in stars that lived a long time ago
Yeah.
that then, went through its life cycle. And as
That's
it did so, and
incredible.
as it ended, yeah, it is. It's a remarkable story. And I think one of the things in science that we don't do is share it and ground it in that context, right? Too often, I saw this as a physics and astronomy instructor, is that we often teach physics and astronomy as a subject where you have to memorize and it's plug and
Mm.
chug.
Yeah.
And I
Hmm.
loathe that description,
Yes.
right? Because have we talked about formulae? Have we talked about plug and chug? Have we talked about just memorization, regurgitation? We're telling stories.
Right.
That's what science is.
Yes.
It's storytelling, but grounded in evidence.
And one of the things I love about the night sky in particular
Hmm.
is that we are telling stories of the past. We are
Mhm.
looking at the past. It's
That's
something
really
that not
cool.
everybody understands. And in fact,
Yes.
my interest in history came when I think I was about 13 or 14, when I really got the idea that looking up at the night sky is looking at the past.
Yes.
And because I also felt like it's looking at the future, our
Right.
future as explorers, because I grew up on Star Trek.
Yes.
And so you get this sense of connection to the past when you know that fact.
Yes.
And then to the future when you see like progress being made,
Yep.
and you feel some hope. Honestly.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Chanel, you had mentioned too, and it almost gave me a little visual of just even that, 5-10 minute conversation. And it could be after 5 o'clock, after dinner, whatever, homework, and just the entire door that can open to a kid, and just to plant that at such a young age, and just to continue to foster that, as you mentioned, curiosity, and then establishing that bonding too, of being able to have a moment that's kind of also not really super weighted, like it is but it isn't, but for a parent to say, hey, I'm not really sure, but let's go explore. It's not like super dire or urgent, but it's really just interest, and that's really fascinating and special.
It absolutely is. And, and to come back to the point that you both have made, this is an opportunity and an experience and something a family can do together, and it doesn't cost a penny. Right.
Awesome.
And it is something you can do from, again, Saturday to Saturday, if that's what works. Right. And you can give your child just a little, either sheet of paper, or even better, a little blank book. And then they could draw, right? They can draw the patterns they see. So if they see a Rhine, they can draw a Rhine, and they can maybe use crayons or pencil crayons to color the stars differently, to say that, they recognize. Now, that's a fundamental physical problem, but you don't have to say that, right? Just having them, right? Just having them
follow
know
up, follow through. Yep. Just all the other little, skills. I just had a recollection too, to 6th grade, and we had like a moon journal, and had to learn all the different phases of the moon. And it's really fascinating.
That's a great point too, because again, your ancestors are talking to you, even with that word, right? When you hear the word month and it's 30 days. In fact, it's one of the things I first do in my first 5 minutes of my gen ed astronomy class when I was teaching it. I ask students, why is a month 30 days roughly? Why isn't it 5, 10, some other number? It's like a very basic question, right?
Yeah.
Why is a week 7 days? Right? Again, very basic question. Not 5, not 10. Right?
Yep.
These are things we use every day, or refer to, right? And it
structures that we have right now. Yes.
And these are, as old as our species. Our ancestors came up with that word. The word month, think month, right? It derives from,
yes.
It derives
and the tides.
And the tides, absolutely. It derives from that sequence of phases that the moon goes through. And again, and the phases, and that it changes, and what's the pattern, that could be done later. But it's just the recognition, first of all, that from night to night, week to week, the moon doesn't look the same, right? And then you can even further plant the seed. Okay, we went outside after dinner, and we saw, say, maybe a beautiful waxing crescent, and then it gets first quarter gibbous, it's all the way to a full moon. And then you maybe have this recognition that, oh, I only see the moon during the night. Where does it go during the day?
Right.
And then that's a great seed. It's like, oh, is it only visible during the day? And then you can even try, letting them, you maybe know because you've looked at the calendar and know that it rises at certain times in the morning or the afternoon sky. And you kind of just point out, hey, look at that. It's mid-afternoon. There's the moon rising.
Can see it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Why is
you
it
can
glowing?
you can even Google what time does the moon rise tonight in Albuquerque or Minneapolis or whatever, wherever you happen to be. And so when, like, you have it right here, in your hand, like the access to that information. So what you were saying, Chanel, before, that we are experiencing the same sky mostly as our ancestors, but we're experiencing it in a different way, right? Because we have light pollution in a way that our ancestors didn't. And so astronomers have an initiative, a dark sky initiative, that I was hoping you could sort of just let our audience know a little bit about, and how people can partake in that.
That's a wonderful question, Deb. And it's something that you can see anytime you can just walk outside at night, right? You walk outside at night and you're almost surrounded in this blinding light. And oftentimes, we're just as responsible as maybe that parking lot or that bank or that gas station, in the sense that our lights that we use at night aren't shielded. And we use light at night, right? Because we want to see, we want to know where we're going, maybe for safety and security. But what happens is we think, a little bit of light makes us safe. So then a whole lot of light should make us safer, right? And what that does, is it creates shadows. It creates opportunities for, say, a perpetrator or someone that may be lurking in the dark, for them to see you, but you not see them. So it actually doesn't help us. And to come back to Deb's specific question, why have astronomers care because it's what I was saying initially is that it competes with our ability to see the night sky. In fact, if you go back to that, the photo or the screen me full, it's not about my
Oh,
ego.
yes.
Um,
No, but you can see the background.
yeah.
Let me just get this shot pulled up here for you. But yeah, absolutely. Let's take a
And
look.
I'll move out of the way. I'll go
Okay.
this way because that that's me
Yep.
Oh, cool.
uh,
Yeah.
in a dark sky with
Wow.
a laser
Mhm.
pointer, and it's a planetarium, right? It's like the planetarium you saw at the Franklin. You see a sky littered with stars. You see the Milky Way.
Yes.
The Milky Way in a truly dark site is bright enough to cast shadows, right? So you're
Wow.
seeing the galaxies, billions upon billions of stars, and it's coming to Earth, creating shadows at night. And so that is gone. Vistas like that. I had to go to a very rural part of the Caribbean to
Mm-hmm.
get that view.
Wow.
80% of humanity, it's now estimated, live in areas where they don't see a dark sky. They don't see the Milky Way. They don't see a sky lit with stars. And given how we just initiated this conversation about something that our ancestors started with, started questioning, started exploring, there's a disconnect then, right? It's a disconnect
Right.
from our
Yes.
species. It's a disconnect from how we used to live. It's a disconnect from nature and the natural world, which we had a very intimate connection with.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And now we live in isolation in these boxes and talk to the devices more than we talk to other people, right? So it's a fundamental issue. And so for
Yeah.
astronomers, it started in the 80s because it competes with our ability to see the cosmos. But it's really become a important factor in the last, I'd say, 15 to 20 years. And the reason is because biologists and actually even medical science have learned that the light that we use at night, this artificial light at night, harms us. Of course, for nocturnal species, again, it's another great conversation to have with children. Are all species
Yes.
active during the day? And often even 5-year-olds go,
Yes.
right? There's nocturnal. Okay, what does that mean? Right. And then
Right.
you can have that conversation. And then it's like, well, they come out at night and are active at night. Okay, but what happens when the night is now bright? So the night sky has impacts not only to us and our ability to see the night, of course, it impacts nocturnal species that are active during the night and their ability to live their lives, right? It has an impact on our climate and our changing climate just from the energy required to produce the light that isn't doing anyone any good. And one of the things you can do, even with a child, is let's look at what the Earth looks like at night from the International Space Station, for example. And you
Yes.
Yes.
don't need markers like there's I-81 or other interstates because you can see that kind of tracked in these
Cool.
images. And so, that light and the use of light at night, the biggest impact factor now is that it impacts our health. So epidemiologists and other medical scientists have noticed and have just found that our exposure to light at night, whether it be from our tablets, our phones, our TVs, impacts our body's ability to produce this hormone melatonin. It gets suppressed
Right.
Ah,
by
oh,
exposure,
yes.
right? And so one of the questions in science is still outstanding is we don't know yet, how
Mm,
much light, how much before bedtime is impactful. So,
interesting.
these are things that, different strategies about maybe an hour before bed. Let's move off devices, off phones, that kind of thing.
Yes.
But coming back to astronomy and the question Deb was asking, one of the really cool things, I'm going to hold this up, and this
Oh,
is just a little,
wow.
yeah, it's just a little wheel, and this is
Oh,
on our
neat.
website, and it's free. There's no cost. The ASP option,
Cool.
and it's a great activity. By Let me just do this so I can see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
This is just a pin. I'll pull it out. So it's just one of these gold pins.
Oh, yes.
Hold it up in front of me. So you can see
Yes.
it. It's
Yep.
just two
Hmm.
pieces. And this card, what this shows is we were talking about Orion. So there you can see Orion. And then you can spin this wheel and say, well, what kind of Orion do I see? And depending on the darkness of where you are, you might see something like this with just an abundance of stars, or you may see something like this where you just see one star. And
That is so interesting.
That's
yeah,
so
And
cool.
so that's astrosociety.org.
yeah, but
Yeah.
you guys will link to it, I'm sure, on the
Yes.
Yes.
website. And here's the great thing. If I flip it around, I've got the summer sky. Uh,
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
So all those
Oh,
things that we talked about, at the beginning about it being a calendar, and that's why it was important
yes.
to our ancestors, that it's impacting now our ability to see the night. It's impacting our ability to connect. These are all different threads you can now bring
Yeah.
together.
And that was almost quite shocking that you said that the estimations are 80%
Right.
of humanity
Yeah.
is in overexposed, lighting,
Yeah.
kind of pollution, if you will. Wow, that's just really fascinating. And we've seen the trends, in recent years of like the blue light glasses and stuff. And it's like, if you're going to be on your devices, then just, protect it from the type of light that's, emitting from the screens. But I mean, just an incredible conversation, just and the doors that have been opened just on this simple topic, right?
Yep.
And so we really appreciate, Shanil, all of your expertise and your insight. And Deb, thank you so much for the conversation. Certainly inspiring indeed. Can't wait to go check in with the kids again and get some more conversations going. But that is all the time we have for this installment for Parenting Plus. And I wanted to thank both of you again for your time.
Oh, such a pleasure.
Oh, my honor. Thank you for the invitation.
Of course, absolutely. And we want to thank you so much for joining us for this installment of Parenting Plus. We'll see you next time.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.